Well, good evening once again. Day 127 of the Biden administration. And tonight, there are more signs that the former president's legal jeopardy is real. Over 24 hours after the Washington Post first reported that a special grand jury will indeed decide whether to indict Donald Trump or his company's executives on criminal charges, there was this today from CNN that, quote, Manhattan prosecutors have told at least one witness to prepare for grand jury testimony. That would indicate a new and crucial phase in the investigation, and that came along quickly. A prosecutor's focus on the Trump's business practices and his tax returns. They're also believed to be scrutinizing the finances of the Trump CFO, Allen Weisselberg. He's been with the Trump Organization for 4 decades. Weisselberg's former daughter-in-law, who is now cooperating with investigators, says the business relationship was no less important after Trump became president.
It's a long family relationship, but also, they're very meshed in the organization. And it seems like that continued when he became president. So in terms of finances.
When's the last time you spoke to DA investigators?
Well, my attorney provided additional documents last Friday.
Former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, another key witness in this case, described Weisselberg's escalating legal dilemma.
When they turn around and they present to Allen a document or multiple documents that show a criminality attached to it, it's now either you got to speak out or you have to accept the consequences. Donald Trump is not going to take responsibility for what's going on here because Donald Trump doesn't take responsibility for anything. And he's going to turn around and say, I pay a lot of money to my accountants. I pay a lot of money to my lawyers. I didn't know. I was told to do this.
Politico has been among those checking in with members of Trump world about the mood among his allies concerning this new grand jury reporting. According to one advisor they talked to, quote, there's definitely a cloud of nerves in the air. The Weisselberg involvement and the wild card of that makes the particular situation more real. The fact that they're dealing with a numbers guy who just has plain details makes people more nervous. Claire, I'd like to begin with you, given your background as a prosecutor. What stands out to you? I understand it's early yet in this DA investigation into Trump.
Well, first, I would say it's probably not early. Typically, a grand jury is not called until most of the investigation is completed. This is about presenting evidence to the grand jury and taking some testimony in all likelihood. But they've hired forensic accountants, Brian. They've had his tax returns. They know where the lies are. And the problem the president has is either his bag man, his numbers guy is going to go down or he's going to go down, because when you lie about financial transactions, you know what? It's a felony. It's a felony. And so we know he's lied about financial transactions. To one folk, he says, I'm rich. To someone, in order to get loans. To another, he says, I'm poor in order to avoid taxes. It's not that complicated. And I think that I'm willing to bet that the prosecutor has the evidence corralled. Now it's just a matter of presentation and the grand jury coming to a decision as to who to indict and for what.
Professor Murray, indeed, we're led to believe it is a lengthy paper trail here. What else, beyond the obvious, the former president part, would make him a unique defendant here?
Well, we've never had a former president who has been charged with a crime. And to be clear, the grand jury has not yet done anything. But the fact that this special grand jury has been impaneled and that it's been slated for a longer term than usual grand jury suggests that this is a sort of sprawling and complex financial crimes case. The fact that we learned last week that the New York Attorney General has joined forces with the Manhattan DA complicates things further. It seems as though they are both working in tandem together, which makes this perhaps even more complicated, more sprawling. But the fact that this grand jury has been in panels suggests that there's something here that they want to present to the grand jury. They think they have something, and the president or someone very close to him is certainly at the center of it.
Which brings us to you, Phil. You chronicled the former president as few others did. What are you hearing? What echoes from his circle? How is it different seeming this time?
You know, Brian, there's a great deal of concern that the former president has and those around him, and they've had it for some time. It's only in the last few days that we've learned just how serious these investigations have reached with the calling of this grand jury. But it's something that's been preying on the former president since he left Washington back in January and headed down to Mar-a-Lago. He knew these investigations were ongoing. He knew that his tax returns were going to be scrutinized by prosecutors, by investigators, and he knew that he could be in a heap of trouble, and he is no longer the president. So he doesn't have the power to hold on to. He can't dangle pardons. He can't force the attorney general to do something to intervene. He doesn't even have a Twitter handle to lead a public relations offensive against the investigators. So he's in some trouble here. He has not yet been charged with any crime, but the developments seem to indicate that that's only a matter of time before that happens. And there's some concern in the president's orbit about how close it could get to him personally. And keep in mind as well, Brian, that his two oldest sons, Don Jr. and Eric Trump, are executives at the Trump Organization. They have responsibility for the finances of that company. And so they very well could also be entangled in this situation.